So with the main wave of free agency in the NFL over, a lot of Jet fans are having a lot of questions about where this team is going. Are the Jets pumping the year? Are they tanking the year? Is there any reason to watch the 2025 season? Well, we're going to talk about some of these signings, try to get an idea of what Darren Muji and Aaron Glenn are trying to do, and talk about possible plans for the draft coming up in just a couple of weeks from right now. But you know what's up. It is that time. It is Wednesday night. It's 6 p.m. Eastern, and we are live. Welcome everybody to New York Sports WickerMedia. I am your party host, Watts UK 99, here for yet another edition of the Wednesday Night Live Extravaganza. It's actually the 900th video that we are posting on the New York Sports WickerMedia website. So, hey, that's something to mark. So 900 has arrived. And 1,000 can't be too far away. So we're going to get into some of the Jets free agency moves, talk a little bit about the players that they've acquired, try to get a feel for what they're going to be doing going forward. Also, a little bit of news that I think is worth talking about that went down this week as well. By the way, if you are in the chat, feel free to say hello. Tell us where you're from. Glad on everybody who is here. Harlan Abraham, the father Abraham of our group, as I like to call him. Yep, we hit 1,000 subscribers just a couple of weeks ago, which I'm very proud of, and now it's on to 2,000. Not gonna stop. Going to keep on going until I just don't want to do it anymore, and I don't think that's going to happen for a long time. Tony Alexio, how you doing? Justin Fields is an enhanced dribbler package with more opportunities. Fields can throw the ball a little better. I know this. Fields, he may not be all that accurate, but I know he's got a little bit more strength than Chris Streveler does. Doesn't have quite the same beard action. So that is quite the detriment on Justin Fields, no doubt about it. Tony, channel member, I am glad that you are here. So we're going to get into the Jets in a few minutes, but let's talk about what's on my mind around the world of New York sports in a segment that, you know what we call it, 3 and Out. First thing, the New York Knicks. Good win over Miami on Monday night. They hadn't swept Miami since 1993. That was so long ago. The Knicks coach was still Pat Riley. So now there's 15 games left to go in the NBA regular season. Again, we've been saying it for weeks. They're all but certain to be the number 3 seed. I expect the first round opponent to be Detroit, but Milwaukee and Indiana are tied for 4th, so they have the 4th and 5th spots respectively. Detroit just a game back of them. And, of course, you have jack-offs on ESPN like Udonis Haslem predicting the upset. Well, you know, if the Knicks play the Detroit Pistons, it's going to be a first-round upset. Because Udonis Haslem is an analyst on TV now, which almost no one knew about. Okay, I didn't even know that ESPN had hired him. So he feels the need to get a little bit of attention. He's a Charles Barkley, Shaquille O'Neal wannabe, and he's bitter that the Knicks swept his heat for the first time in 32 years. Hey, Udonis, bite me. Okay? The key for the Knicks is getting Jalen Brunson back in the next 2 or 3 weeks and getting that chemistry. Remember, you've got Mitchell Robinson back in the lineup. That matters. The Knicks defense gets exponentially better when he is in the lineup. Knicks take on San Antonio this Wednesday evening. San Antonio playing without Wemby, without De'Aaron Fox, should definitely be a Knicks victory. On to baseball. If you're a Yankees fan, you got to get a little bit worried at this point. The problems are adding up. Garrett Cole's out for the year. Luis Hill is out for half the year. You have questions at third base. At leadoff, nobody knows who the Yankees' leadoff hitter is going to be. I mean, when the thought is that it's going to be Austin Wells, the catcher, Come on. You can't do that when your catcher only plays 5 out of every 7 games. And also with the pitching, Clark Schmidt was scratched from a scheduled start. Felt good after throwing a bullpen on Tuesday, but you got to see how he recovers. That's been his issue as of late. Paul Goldschmidt's back is acting up, expected to be ready for opening day. Despite all of this, I still expect the Yankees to win this division, but at this point, I think they may do it without winning 90 games. I just don't see an American League team that is definitively better than the Yankees. I go through the list: Baltimore, Boston, Cleveland, Detroit, Minnesota, Houston, Texas, Seattle. You can make arguments for any of those teams making the playoffs, winning a playoff series or two. But is there a single team among that group that you legitimately fear? Even Houston, I know that they've had a good run for a long time, but they've lost a lot off that team. Alex Bregman's gone. Kyle Tucker's gone. Christian Walker is in. Ryan Presley, I believe, is gone as well. So they are. It's a rough spot that they're in, and I look forward to seeing them when they host the Mets in 8 days. I can't freaking wait. But I think that you're going to have 4 teams between 89 and 80 wins in the AL East. I think it's going to be a very tightly contested division. And as far as the other baseball team in New York goes, well, the opening day matchup is set. Clay Holmes pitches for the Mets, Framber Valdez for the Astros. And it's interesting what the Mets are going to be doing with this rotation. It looks like David Peterson, their lefty, is going to get held out until the Miami series because Houston has a very heavy righty lineup. Jose Altuve, Christian Walker, Yordan Alvarez, Jeremy Pena, Isaac Paredes, who they got from the Cubs in the Kyle Tucker trade. Kodai Senga, though, is not pitching until Game 5 against Miami. Look, he is a very capable pitcher. I like him, but he needs to be handled like fine china in bubble wrap, okay? So when I go to Games 2 and 3 in Houston, I'm going to be watching like Paul Blackburn, Griffin Canning, Tyler McGill, 2 of those 3. Okay, can't say that I'm overly excited about it, but if that's what helps for the long term, you got to do what you got to do. Tony Alexio wanted to resign Brandon Eccles for half the cost of Brandon Stevens. Well, Harlan comes back with good possibility. Eccles did not want to return. Here's my thing. What could Pittsburgh have offered him that the Jets didn't? To me, Brandon Eccles is an excellent number 3 outside cornerback, but I'm worried if you played him too much, he would get exposed. So I'm not quite willing to go there. I'm trying to figure out so Eccles signed a 2-year deal with Pittsburgh. So that is known. As far as the money goes, I don't think the money has come out, but it was a 2-year deal. So we do know that much. And again, Stevens, here's the thing. I will trust that Aaron Glenn knows what he's doing with Brandon Stevens. I was going to get to Stevens a little bit later, but what the heck, we'll do it right now. Stevens has very good intangibles, very good metrics. He can run, but he has to remember to do things like turning his head, make a play on the ball. That is the thing. And if Aaron Glenn sees the ability, the raw ability, he just needs to teach him these 1 or 2 things. That's a little bit different. Tony, I haven't seen the $5 million a year. If that's true, then that's all well and good. I don't know. I would have liked Eccles as the 3rd cornerback, but Quantas Stiggers might have that opportunity. So let's see what winds up happening. But yeah, Eccles is definitely somebody that I wanted them to keep for sure. And number 3 that I'm going to mention is the NCAA tournament, which has technically started. 2 more games tonight in the first 4. And then the full tournament starts on Thursday. Now, I'll be honest with you. I've already filled out about 31 brackets. I do that. I figure maybe 3 of them won't completely suck. But my usual formula for who gets to the Final 4 is 2 1 seeds, a 2 seed, and a random team. Sadly, my North Carolina State Wolfpack, they're nowhere near the NCAA tournament. They're not near the NIT. They're not near that college basketball classic or whatever it is that Fox is putting on now. Last year's run to the Final 4 might be the best one that I'll ever see. Okay, but I'll give you a couple of sleepers really quick here. 1 from each region. VCU, Yale, Colorado State, and McNeese. By the way, the McNeese coach actually is going to be going to NC State. Just came out in the last hour. So they have their coach to replace Kevin Keats. So will that change? McNeese plays Clemson. So how do the McNeese players respond to them knowing that their coach is leaving with their next loss? My final four, I've got 3 1s and a 2. I've got Michigan State as the number 2, and then I've got Duke, Florida, and Houston. And in the final right now, I'm going with Florida to win the national championship against Houston. So those are my thoughts. Harlan Abraham, Jets seem to be turning over a lot of players. Yep, well, when you have 20-plus free agents, that's going to happen. And I think and I'm going to get into kind of the idea a little bit later. But I'll tell you what, we have just flipped the screen from green to blue. It might be a little bit hard to do it right now, but hey, it's the off season. So if ever there's a time where it's not going to hurt as much, let's do it right now. So let me hear you. Jets, Jets. So what is the news? Let's talk about it right now. Now, the first person I'm putting on the screen is Dean Clark. Who is Dean Clark? So he's a safety at Fresno State, and he is the first player that the Jets are going to be interviewing with their top 30 draft interviews. So the immortal one himself, Dean Clark. If you haven't heard of him, don't feel bad. All right. Well, let's talk about who he is, what kind of player he is, and maybe that'll give us an idea of what the Jets are looking for. So he transferred from Kent State to Fresno State, and in his 2 seasons at Fresno State had 146 tackles, 4 interceptions, 9 pass breakups. At his pro day, he ran a 4.4940, a 41-inch vertical, an all-Mountain West honorable mention. His versatility is what stands out. He could play downhill. He could play in the box, man coverage, zone. He also wore the green dot at Fresno State. He ran the communication. He was the quarterback of the defense for Fresno State. So I did a little more research on him because Dean Clark is not a guy you're going to find a whole lot of film on. You know, the guys who do the draft breakdowns don't really talk about. When we talked about safeties just a couple weeks ago, Dean Clark was not even on my radar. So he was interviewed by one website, and he was asked, why should he be drafted? And this is what Dean Clark said. I have a worker's mentality. I'm a lunch pail type of guy. I'm going to show up every single day, ready to work as hard as I can. Pretty generic, but everything you'd want to hear, right? I'm going to bring that same mentality to the next level. I never get too high or low on myself. It's all about consistency. That quote I like in particular because it's very easy as a defensive back when you give up a big play to let it carry over. If you have to have the resilience to shake off a bad play, but then also when you make a great play, not rest on your laurels. But continuing, he says, I always focus on taking things one day at a time. Again, more generic stuff. I make plays. I'm going to make myself and our organization better. All right. Well, I'm going to say this real quick about Dean Clark. About his scouting report, pardon me. So this is what PFF said. Clark lacks difference-making and NFL explosiveness and acceleration, but he is an experienced and versatile safety prospect who can be a valuable depth player as a strong safety and operate in a too-high safety system. Now, when I looked at PFN, and because they do the overall rankings, most of the mock drafts you see are from PFN. He was ranked 58th overall among safeties. That's just safeties. He was ranked 611 overall. Now, he does have an RAS, a relative athletic score of 9.35. So, you know what? If that's exciting, then great. But this is somebody that the Jets could definitely take with a 6th-round pick, possibly even an undrafted free agent situation. Will be interesting to see if anybody else brings him in for a top 30 visit. But with their first visit, it is not exactly somebody they're going to be drafting on day 1 or day 2. Yeah, like the Jet front office figures, they weren't winning with a lot of the players that were here. Hey, you know what? I don't mind an overhaul right now because the players that were here, they weren't winning. So if you turn it over, create a little bit more flexibility, get the draft picks, start some things over, but still keep a certain core in place, then I can understand it. Tony Alexio, I hope all these one-year bench players will increase our comp picks in the future. They're going to have big years, though, because it's about the contracts that you sign afterwards. It's also about the different accolades that you get as well. I really don't have a lot of optimism that that is going to happen because these one-year players are really marginal players. They would have to pretty much sign 10, 11, $12 million deals for that to happen. And by the way, Tyler Conklin is still not signed yet, right? I haven't seen any news about him. I still think a pretty big contract could come along for him. I mean, why couldn't he get $10 million a year if Juwan Johnson did? And that might help the Jets' overall formula. My personal opinion is the Jets do not want to mess up this fourth-round draft pick that they would currently be getting for Hassan Reddick. I think what they're doing with other free agents, and we'll get to one of them in a moment, is say we're willing to offer you a one-year deal, maybe even a two-year deal, but this is what it's going to be per year, and that's it. Because at this point, the Jets, when you factor in the draft, have maybe about $15 million a year or so to spend. I think they might sign one or two marginal free agents, but I don't think it's going to be too much more beyond that. And yes, they will get $4 million in June after they cut C.J. Mosley, but I wouldn't get overly excited about it. I wouldn't expect this to really affect our comp picks. I think Conklin can, though. Just some thoughts on that. Okay, so there was a little bit of news about another free agent that the Jets hosted this week, and it's Rondale Moore, the wide receiver. So he was a second-round pick for Arizona back in 2021, went to Atlanta last year. Of course, he suffered a knee injury in camp, so he spent the whole year on IR. So Moore has never really lived up to the billing of being a second-round pick, and most of that is because of injuries. His best season was actually his first. He had 54 catches, 435 yards, 1 touchdown. And in all 3 seasons where he's played, he's always caught at least 54 passes for 435 yards and 1 touchdown. 350 yards, 1 touchdown. Now, he's only 24 years old. So if the Jets sign him, would I hate it? No, of course not. It's an upgrade over Allen Lazard. It's an upgrade over Xavier Gibson. But again, I think the Jets are going to want to keep that 4th-round pick. So I would imagine it's a 1-year deal that is incentive-laden based on games played and marks achieved. Now, some news came out today that Moore is meeting with some other teams. He's met with Chicago, Minnesota, and Tennessee today. Now, at least here's what I would say. At least the Jets can offer him a starting role. You know, you look at the Bears. They have DJ Moore and Rome Odunze. The Vikings have Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. The Titans have Calvin Ridley and either Treylon Burks or Van Jefferson, who they just signed. At least Daramuji could say, you have the starting job is yours to lose. All right. You don't want to guarantee a job. You know, you want to create competition, but you could say you're not going to have a better chance to start anywhere at wide receiver than you will in this offense. So let's see what happens with Rondale Moore. But I'd be pretty interested in that. I want to give you a couple of details about I want to talk a little more about what Daramuji is doing with some of these contracts. So with Jamian Sherwood, he signed a 3-year, $45 million deal. The $30 million guaranteed is over the first 2 years. And the Jets also added 3 void years. That is because they wanted to lower the early cap costs. So the cap charges in those 3 years are $5 million, $11.5 million, and $19 million in the 3rd year. But it's okay, you know, it's not as bad to do that in the 3rd year because, you know, the Aaron Rodgers contract will be gone at that point. So that is what's happening there. And then you look at Brandon Stevens, pretty much all our favorite signing. 3 years, $36 million. He has a $10 million signing bonus prorated over 5 years. 3 void years from 2028 to 2030. And the cap hits are $4 million, $14 million, and $14 million again in 2027. So the Jets are really backloading these contracts because they have to do business while they're dealing with a lot of cap ramifications this year and next year. So I don't expect the Jets to get overly aggressive in free agency until 2 years from now. You know, I said it to you a week or two ago. I expect a lot of 1-year prove-it deals. They're going young, which makes sense. All right. So I'm good with that. But then we look at some of the other signings that they had. We were on the air. Yeah, we're actually on the air with Jeremy when some of the news broke. Rashad Weaver at edge rusher, 27 years old. Chris Harris, you know, who now coaches for the Jets on defense, He coached Weaver in 23 and 2024. Chukwuma Okorafor, the right tackle, 27 years old. I do not have the confidence this is our right tackle next season. Okay, more on that in a moment. They re-signed Isaiah Oliver. I like that move. 28 years old, played almost 600 snaps in 2024. He will give you the versatility that you want in the defensive backfield. I know, Tony. I didn't like the signing of Brandon Stevens. It doesn't make sense. But again, I will give Aaron Glenn a chance to work with him. Again, he can run. He can move. He has to learn to make plays on the ball. And if Aaron Glenn thinks that he can teach him that, okay, I'm going to give him a chance. I'm a little worried this is going to be Tremaine Johnson part 2, though. I'm not going to lie. So we look at some of the other signings that they had since we did the last show. Josh Myers, 26 years old, 1 year, $2 million. Can play anywhere on the IOL, which I'm very happy about. This is your Wes Schweitzer replacement. He's a younger player. He's a better player and tough as hell. So I really like the addition of Josh Myers, who is also Justin Fields center at Ohio State. Then we go to Tyler Johnson, the wide receiver, 26 years old, a 6'1" target, got good hands, only 3 career drops. He doesn't have the best speed in the world, but what he does do is win contested catches. This past year, he came down with 5 of his 8 contested catches. And ideally, he's going to be like your number 4 or so wide receiver. I don't think the Jets signed him to be the number 2 receiver. And then we go to Stone Smart, the tight end. 31 career receptions for 380 yards and a touchdown in 38 games. Had 19 targets last year, 16 catches for 208 yards and 11 first downs. This is a player that a lot of Chargers fans wanted to keep. You know, he has not been playing tight end for all that long. And so there was the hope that the Chargers would be able to develop him and have him become a more reliable weapon in the offense. Chargers did not tender him a contract, though. And so the Jets were able to sign him for just money. You know, do I put the highest of expectations on him? No, I don't. I think he'll have to earn that roster spot. I do, but there is something there to work with. Also, a couple other things on him. If you look at yards receiving per route, he's 8th out of 58 tight ends. He has an 84.2% catch rate. The quarterbacks, when they target him, have a 112.3 passer rating. That's pretty freaking good. I love that he was directed out of ODU, Go Monarchs, and that was his 3rd stop in college. He's been in Northern Arizona and Riverside City. He was a college quarterback and was a pretty good college quarterback. At Riverside City, he led all junior college quarterbacks in passing efficiency. Now, when you're worried about, he's still developing as a blocker, okay? That has to be taught. And again, he didn't play tight end till his final year when he was at ODU. So you really have to teach him that. And again, I'm going to keep saying this until it's resolved. The Jets need a blocking tight end. They don't have it yet. And you should be able to get one for cheap now. If not, you could definitely get one in the draft. But considering how many RPOs I expect to see, I want at least two new tight ends. I want 2 tight ends on this roster who can block because I don't believe Jeremy Ruckert can. All right. Until I see it, I'm not believing in this kid. So right now, the tight end room is nothing but clay that I hope is moldable and isn't completely stiff. Hey, Sharon McClain, how you doing, my friend? What about Jalen Mills? Yeah, Tony wants to sign him back. Yeah, you know what? Jalen Mills is somebody I've been wanting to bring back for sure. Everything I see on Twitter, he seems to be feeling a little bit impatient that nobody's talking to him. To which I say, Jalen, God bless you, but free agency is only a week old. There's still plenty of time for you. But I definitely would like to see the Jets bring him back. But I think when they brought back Isaiah Oliver, that might have spelled curtains on it. I don't know if the Jets would bring back both Oliver and Mills in the secondary. Tony says Smart looks like an upgrade over Ruckert. I think it's going to be both of them on the roster. I think Smart is a better receiving weapon as far as the blocking goes. Both kind of suck. That's as honestly as I can say it. At least Ruckert can block when he's in the H-back position, but he's not the X-tight end that is going to be there right next to the offensive line. And that's something the Jets sorely need to make this offense work. from the great state. Hey, Jeremy Rucker went to Wisconsin, and this gentleman is from Wisconsin, the great Chris Barthigan. I'm doing just fine. How are you? Yeah. It's been a pretty good week. The weather out here in North Carolina is pretty good. Yeah, the NCAA tournament will be in my backyard tomorrow. So, I might go. I don't know. If the tickets come down a little bit, then maybe I'll go to the Friday night session. I think that's Florida and ODU and Florida and Norfolk State and Connecticut, Oklahoma. I think I'd go. Yeah. So never been to an NCAA tournament game, so I think it'd be pretty fun. But we'll see how the tickets go. All right. So then we look at the defensive players they sign, and when it comes to the defensive tackle position, I know. Yep, I know you're in Wisconsin. Yeah, I never lived there, but I've been there. I've been there many times. I've lived in Chicago for 20 years. And speaking of Chicago, well, the Jets signed somebody from the Bears, Byron Cowart. It really feels like what the Jets are trying to do at defensive tackle is throw enough crap at the wall and see what stays there. So Cowart, I don't think he's related to is he related to Sam? I meant to look this up if Byron Cowart and Sam Cowart are related. Yeah, I don't think they are related. Last I remember, from what I could tell. Yeah. I don't think they are related. If somebody wants to correct me on that, then feel free. But Cowart is 6'3", 300 pounds, 28 years old, signed a 1-year, $1.2 million deal. So that is mighty inexpensive. So he has been to New England, Indianapolis, Kansas City, Houston, Miami, and Chicago. He has been all over the league. He is basically the Tim Boyle of defensive tackles. But Eric Washington coached him last year in Chicago. He's now on the Jets staff, and he's a pretty dang good run stopper. Last year, he made 22 run stops on 324 snaps. That is a run stop rate of 6.8%, well above the league average. So I think it makes sense for 1 year. Not too bad. Then we go to, I'm going to probably butcher the name, but Jay Tufele, the defensive tackle, who I don't know what it is with these Cincinnati defensive tackles, whether it's Pecco or these other guys, but they all got like that. They got like that long curly hair that, that island, Samoan sort of hairstyle. And you can tell he's got the tribal ink there. So, hey, he plays well enough. We may have to acknowledge him as our tribal chief. But he's 6'3", 305 pounds, 25 years old. Last year, he played a career-high 243 snaps. We hope he's a run stopper, but he only had a 2.5% run stop percentage. That was good enough for fifth highest of defensive tackles on the Bengals. Okay, so he was not very good last year with Cincinnati. I think this is somebody who's going to have to really work to get a spot on the team. And then we go to Derek Nottie from the Kansas City Chiefs, 28 years old, has won 3 Super Bowl rings with Kansas City. Look, some people have been a little bit down on this, saying he's getting a little bit past his prime. You don't play 500 snaps for a team coached by Andy Reid, and you don't play 500 snaps for a defense coached by Steve Spagnuolo if you're not good at your job. Now, his level of play did fall off a little bit last season. He lost his starting job, which belonged to him for 6 years, played only 215 snaps, made 11 tackles, recorded 8 stops, so that's tackles for a loss, a 3.7% run stop rate that ranked 121 out of 141 defensive tackles. So you wonder if it's a situation where the Jets have signed him 1 year too late, but he will bring a little bit of leadership and experience into the locker room. So let's see how that winds up going. Can I say the Jets have definitively solved their issues at defensive tackle next to Quinnen Williams? No, I can't. When you pair them up, obviously, along with Quinnen Williams, you throw in Fedarian Mathis, you throw in Leonard Taylor, there will be no shortage of competition for who makes that roster. Just remind everybody, please hit that thumbs up if you haven't already. You guys know the deal. We hit our 15 likes. We'll spin the wheel a little bit later on tonight. And, of course, we will be spinning the first round wheel to see who we're going to draft with our first round pick because, as you all know, the wheel is never wrong, ever. All right, and then on defensive tackle, we have Chris. We kept Kenny Nwangwu. Let us not forget that. But we signed Chris Boyd, who is basically the next Justin Hardy. So he is a gunner on the punt coverage team. He's super fast. He can run 22.3 miles per hour. That's one of the fastest times in the league. Now, what most people will remember him for was that first playoff game against Kansas City. Forced the fumble on the opening kickoff return. He thought the Texans had recovered. They didn't. He takes off his helmet to celebrate, draws a 15-yard penalty, and then Frank Ross, his coach, confronts him about it. Boyd pushed him, said he was overly excited. So I'm not going to let one moment or one play define his career or who he is. But apparently this is somebody who can help out on special teams, so let's see. And then at punter, we signed Austin McNamara. Now, look, we all love Thomas Morstead. We love the stash. He's very engaging with Jet fans, very engaging with the community as a whole. But when you get right down to it, his metrics are very average. Whether you look at hang time, net returns, all of it. Morstead is right around the middle of the league. I don't have any issue in bringing in another punter for competition. Now, there's still a lot of punters who don't have jobs right now. So the fact that the Jets signed McNamara already, well, apparently they see something. When he played at Texas Tech, he averaged over 46 yards per punt over 5 years, a school record and a Big 12 record. So there is some capability there. I'm fine with McNamara being there to push Morstead. So I then have to ask the obvious question. We brought in competition at punter. What about the competition at kicker? We have to ask about it. I'm not nervous about it yet. I'm not panicking about it yet. But the Jets got to bring in another kicker to at least push Greg Zuerlein. They could draft one with one of their 6th-round picks. Jets have 2 6th-round picks right now, one of which is the Kansas City one, super, super late. Why not draft a kicker with one of those picks? Whether it's Andre Borregales, whether it's Ryan Fitzgerald, who I want to bring in, the guy Sauls, him as well. I really would like to see the Jets draft a kicker or bring one in with one of their undrafted free agent signings. But you cannot go into training camp with just Greg Zuerlein again. We seem to have a mutual feeling here about Michael Clemens. Well, they didn't do a whole lot with defensive end. I mean, they brought in Rashad Weaver. He might be the replacement. I don't know. But again, how can you justify paying Michael Clemens $3.3 million this year? You just can't. And I can also mention the Jets brought back Jamin Davis at linebacker, who was here briefly towards the end of last year. He was hurt at the time. And, keep in mind with Davis, he's still only 26 years old. He's been with a couple of different organizations. He was with Green Bay, Minnesota, and the Jets last year alone. Never really got into a game, though. But he was with Washington for a couple of years. And, he does have pretty good speed. Runs the 40 in under 4.5 seconds. So let's see what winds up happening. Not that I expect him to get a lot of playing time, but you do get a little bit of depth there. Chris Bradigan in favor of drafting a kicker as well. Yeah, I would. I mean, typically only 2 to 3 kickers get drafted a year. So you never know what you might be able to find. You never know. And again, Chris Banjo, hey, I don't know how much you put on a special teams coach for the kicking ability, because we've seen kickers can be their success is very fleeting. It's very ephemeral. It goes up and down year to year. So do you really put that on the coach? Do you put it on the kicker that they're just really creatures of habit? It's very, very, it's hard to figure out. It's almost like trying to figure out a quarterback. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So what do we conclude about all of this, about these signings and what kind of players they're trying to bring in? The Jets are really going after reclamation projects, and they're going after young players. Pretty much every free agent they sign is under 30, and they have a point to prove. Many of them have had some level of success in the league. Some, I'll be honest with you, have been just absolute journeymen. That's about as real as I can say with some of them. There's a number of players here I don't see as being part of the solution. I think there are a number of stopgaps here. Hey, David, how you doing? Hope you're having a good day, my friend. Chris, from the Big Ten, they know how to kick in the cold. Yeah, hey, Hey, that works for me for whatever the reason may be. But we know this free agent class was pretty weak. It's, in a lot of positions. I mean, I thought offensive line was very weak. I thought wide receiver just did not suit the Jets. You could either sign a 30-year-old aging wide receiver who's going to basically command $15 million, DeAndre Hopkins, Amari Cooper, Stephon Diggs. The Jets aren't going to do that. They're looking for a 1 to 2 year receiver who can complement Garrett Wilson and still has some youth on his side. So Rondale Moore, he's got upside. He's not going to cost a whole heck of a lot. I don't call that being cheap. I think it's just trying to be smart now so you can spend more later when you're really in a position to go for it. And the Jets did not do anything that's going to really prohibit them from signing their own players now and over the next year. And we know who I'm talking about. Sauce, Garrett, Brees, JJ, and so on. And ultimately, even Quincy Williams, don't forget him too. His contract's going to be coming up very soon. He's making $6 million this year. You saw what Jamian got. That whole market's about to get reset. Quincy's looking for he's looking to get a little Rod Tidwell going on with showing him the money. Also, AVT at right guard, got to consider that. The Jets, it is pretty exciting what the Jets have at offensive line, but they do have such a talented, youthful OL. Now John Simpson, his contract is up after this year. One of the things I could see the Jets doing is going after a guard in the middle rounds they could develop. Frazier. Just saying. But I could see that being a situation. You have Olu, you have Tippmann. I still believe AVT should be resigned. Had the third best blocking rate among all guards in the NFL last year. AVT can downright block. All right. Run blocking, not ideal, but he can pass block, and that's a hell of a start. Simpson, I don't know what's going to happen. Again, Jets signed to a 2-year deal. He's already outperforming it over the first year. Jets might have to look at guard as being a position of depth later on. Right tackle is the position of question there. So I think for right now, they signed a stopgap. This, as we know, is not a great draft for offensive tackle. Certainly not a plug-and-play situation. Okay, and that is not likely. If they don't get Membu, it's pretty much a situation where you're drafting a tackle to develop him. All right, even Ozzie Trapillo, who Jet fans are in love with, a lot of people, like, say, a Cole Thompson, who's well-respected, he's on Jake's show quite a bit. He'll tell you he's not really plug-and-play. So that is something to keep in mind as well. But Aaron Glenn said he wanted to create competition. Competition is what he's going to get. He's looking for players to overachieve, players who have something to prove. And I think more than anything, Aaron Glenn wants to establish him as the alpha male in Florham Park this year. He didn't want an Aaron Rodgers. He didn't want a Devontae Adams or anybody like that who's going to create distractions and make it about himself. I'm not trying to disparage Rodgers or Adams in any way, but those players command attention. Who's the biggest alpha male? Who's the biggest attention hog right now on the Jets? Probably Sauce, maybe Garrett. But those are players who are still trying to earn their second contracts. So I think Glenn has an idea of what he wants to create, but it's not going to happen in one off season. And I know there's a lot of Jet fans right now who are very down on the season. One of my best friends in Virginia, he told me, I can't remember the last time I was not looking forward to a draft. And he's usually pretty positive, but when he texted that to me, that took me aback a little bit. Because it's like, I'll always get excited for a draft, unless we don't have any picks in like the first 2 rounds. But yeah, that was humbling. Let's be optimistic about this. When Joe Douglas came here, he had to build this franchise from the ground up. And quite frankly, he did a pretty good job of it. Some things did not work out, but some things worked out very well. He left Aaron Muji and Aaron Glenn with something to work with. He and Rex Hogan and Chad Alexander. I'll include them too. So this is not starting with no raw materials. You have some materials to work with. In fact, when we really look at what this team is missing from, at the top of the lineup, let's think about it. You got your quarterback, you have Justin Fields, you have Tyrod Taylor, you have a capable backup. You have 3 running backs that you got to feel pretty good about to different extents. And wide receiver, you have Garrett, then you have a lot of question marks, no doubt about it. Malachi Corley, Alan Lazard, Xavier Gibson. That's one thing the Jets definitely need is a wide receiver. Tight end. You have a lot of question marks there. Jeremy Rucker, Stone Smart, Zach Kuntz. If the Jets keep him, you need help at tight end. Offensive line. Now what do you have? You've got Olu. You got Simpson, Tippmann, ABT, and Okorafor for right now at right tackle. But you've added Josh Myers on the interior offensive line. You still have Mitchell and Warren. Not that you're excited about that. Not that you trust them. But you do have them as well. And maybe with some actual coaching, which, let's be honest, the Jets have probably the worst offensive line coach in the NFL. I don't think that could be really debated. So you have them. They brought back Xavier Newman as well for the interior offensive line. Jets have some very, very good depth on that IOL. Really, really good. So you could say wide receiver, tackle, and tight end. Then we go to the defense. You've got Jermaine Johnson. You've got Will McDonald. You've got Rashad Weaver. You've got Eric Watts. You've got Bruce. You've got McGregor, Braden McGregor. And you might still have Michael Clemens. Maybe not. It's not what it was 2 years ago, but you do have something to work with there. And, another year for McGregor and Watts. Hey, hopefully one of them will actually build up. But you want to have at least three. And I would say between JJ, Will, and Weaver, that's a pretty good start at 1, 2, 3. And then you got some youth behind that. Defensive tackle, we've already talked about that. Quinnen, Leonard Taylor, Fedarian Mathis, and the 3 free agents. You definitely have strength in numbers there. And linebacker, Quincy, Jamian, those are your starters. Besides that, you have Jamin Davis. You have Zaire Barnes. You have Ches Surratt still hanging around. Then in the secondary, Sauce. You love Sauce. You love Michael Carter as your nickelback. After that, your starter, you got questions. Brandon Stevens, Quantas Siggers, Jarek Bernard Converse, Isaiah Oliver, maybe. So I think the Jets are obviously using Stevens as their second cornerback. I don't know quite how much confidence they have in Quantas Siggers, but I do want to see them bring in a cornerback somewhere in the draft who can push them and kind of become that new Eccles, a younger version of Eccles. Maybe you could do that with a 3rd-round pick or a 4th-round pick. Then at safety, it's pretty bare. Okay, at this point, you have Tony Adams, you have Andre Sisco, you still have Jarius Monroe. Maybe you can use Oliver in the safety role, but the Jets still need to bring in at least one safety, maybe 2. And then right now, you have your special teams pretty much in place with Morstead, Zerline. We'll see what happens, and Hennessy. And you know what? You can use Xavier Gibson and Kenny Nwangu as your returners. Okay, not that I love Gibson. I'd rather have Nwangu run, but hey, you want to keep Gibson around? That's fine. Yeah, I agree, Tony. I definitely like Sisco. I'm definitely a fan of that. You know what? Right now, Kuntz is probably the 3rd best tight end on the team. But I do think they will bring somebody in. Yeah, Kuntz is going to have to earn his spot. There's no doubt about it. Chris bringing the positivity. I respect that. He's going to build an actual NFL effing team. It has to start somewhere. There's going to be some turbulence, but I got my seatbelt on, jet up. Yeah, it is going to be shaky. The Jets are going into this draft with some definite needs, but there are certain positions where I feel pretty good. And I wonder, do the Jets draft the quarterback at some point? Will they do that? I don't think they're going to. I wouldn't do it early at this point. But at some point, do you draft a Leonard? Do you draft a McCord? Do you draft one of those players in the middle rounds? I think one of the things we're going to have to come to terms with is this is not going to be a complete team. We're going to go into training camp with at least 1 or 2 definitive holes where we can't afford an injury. It might be at starting corner. It might be at tight end. It might be a wide receiver. It might be at right tackle. If the Jets can address all of those needs, seriously, between now and minicamp, I will be amazed if they could do that in the draft. I don't know if they can. I never want to be the type that says trade down, trade down, trade down. There's like a certain trade down cult out there. And Rusty Spooner, if you're watching, I love you, But you are the king of the trade down army. Okay. Every year it's trade down, and draft offensive linemen, right? Yeah. I say that with love, but come on. But again, you need somebody who's willing to come up to do it. But this is a year where I think it would make sense to possibly trade down. There's certain players the Jets can draft who would address those issues, whether it's Will Johnson, whether it's Tyler Warren, whether it's Mason Graham, on and on we could go. Several safeties as well. I don't know if they would go with a Malachi Starks or a Nick Emamori. I don't know if they would actually go safety. I don't think they would without trading down. But if they could do that, this is a year where I would advocate for trading down. I really would. So we'll just have to see what winds up happening. But there are still a lot of questions about this roster. But we are seeing a more definitive edge, more definitive vision, I should say. And right now, it's youth, it's competition. Prove that you want to be an NFL player. It's not the place where we want to be. It's not where the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Bills, or the Eagles are at all. But it's a start. And if the biggest thing that we get from year one, from this year, is confidence that Aaron Glenn is our head coach and he can be a successful head coach, I call it a good year regardless of what the record is. Aaron Glenn establishing himself as a good head coach is more important than any one win will be, or any free agent signing will be. So as we keep going on through the year, and we all but certainly deal with various levels of adversity, let's see how Aaron Glenn responds to it. More thumbs up are needed to unleash the trivia package. We'll do the trivia in just a moment, Tony. Don't you worry about that. Sharon McClain wants Xavier Watts in the second round. Hey, I'd be good with it. A lot of good safeties in this draft for sure. A lot of good safeties. And the fact that the Jets, with one of their top 30 visits, are bringing in the one ring on PFN, ring 58. I don't understand. I genuinely don't understand what the idea of that is. I know you take those rankings with a grain of salt. I understand. But with a top 30 visit, really? Chris Bradigan, go Irish. Yeah, hope you had a happy St. Patty's Day. Yeah, I ran the Shamrock 5 miler on Saturday. It was a good race. I drank about 6 or 7 Yingling Lights after the race. Hey, you get 4 free beer tickets, and I'm just trying to help the American businesses out, make sure there aren't leftovers, The Yingling family is a good family. I want to support them, and so I was there for them. But no Leonard, just no Riley Leonard. Okay, I got you, man. I got you. All right. So with the positions, wide receiver, blocking tight end, right tackle, strong safety. And just to mention on right tackle, I was going to come back to this with Okorafor. I'm looking at him as maybe a better version of Mitchell or Warren. No, nothing more at this point. I'm not interested in a guy who basically quit last year. I know New England moved him out of position from right tackle to left tackle. Okay, so you can blame the coaches for that if you would like. But if right tackle is that big of a question mark, it just emphasizes again the need for a better tight end, especially when it comes to blocking. And there are plenty of them out there. That Jackson Hall's guy, hey, he's a bad receiver. Okay, he has like a 12% drop rate, but everybody you talk to will tell you what a good blocker he is. Though, as long as you don't mind a tight end who blocks only and does nothing else, right? If you're cool with that, then great, go ahead and draft him. I'm just saying he is not going to give you anything in the receiving game. Even if Joe Montana was throwing him the ball, you wouldn't see it. All right. Well, guys, I'll tell you what. It is 6:50 in the evening right now, and I think it is just about that time. And every week, you pretty much know what happens. We bust open the books. We pull up the websites. We dust off the Encyclopedia Britannica. And I, Watts UK99, challenge you, the most loyal fans of the most loyal fan base in all of the NFL, just how much do you know about your New York Jets? So if you are ready, and I trust you are ready, let's play Jets Trivia. All right, so everybody, we all know the rules. I will put 5 minutes on my cell phone on the clock. I will ask you a question and throw your answers down there in the chat. And I think you all know I try to make this about as topical as I can. So as of late, we've been doing draft questions, but tonight we are not going to do that because we got to do something a little bit more important. I wanted to do a trivia question in honor of Derek Gaffney, the former Jets wide receiver who passed away this week. Played with the Jets in the late 70s and early 80s. So I wanted to do a Derek Gaffney related question as a way of paying tribute to the former Jets receiver. So to Derek Gaffney, to his family, friends, Godspeed, all the best, and our thoughts and prayers. So let's put 5 minutes on the clock, and let's give you the Derek Gaffney related question. Goes like this. Derek Gaffney was drafted in 1978 by the Jets and played exactly 100 NFL games. Name the 3 other Jets picks from 1978 that played at least 100 NFL games. All right, so 3 players the Jets drafted in 78 who played at least 100 games in the NFL. So chat, what do you think? I know we got some longtime Jet fans here, and I know we got some younger Jet fans, but I know they love their Jet history because the present is so depressing. What else can you do but look back at the history? So 3 players the Jets picked in 78 that played at least 100 NFL games. The Chiefs are signing defensive lineman Marlon Tuipulotu. That's very exciting news. Chris Bradigan is going to throw out Marty Lyons. Is it Marty Lyons? It is not. Afraid to say. No, there will not be any defensive linemen here. I will tell you this. They are all offensive players. So not a bad draft for the Jets. They drafted 4 players who played at least 100 games. Tony Alexio goes Pat Leahy. Is it Pat Leahy? No, all offense. Yeah, I would say if I had to rate them, they may not be Ring of Honor members, but they're all to different levels, good Jets, good solid Jets. David D, of course, says Lee Cravatt. Of course it is. Yes. Lee Cravatt actually only played 99 games in the NFL, so he's close but no cigar. Harlan Abraham with Marvin Powell. Is it Marvin Powell? Played not. Good guess, but no. Sharon McLean. Joe Fields. How about Joe Fields? Man, oh man, we're throwing out a lot of good names here, but none of them are correct yet. I'll give you this. One was a quarter. Let me just check one thing here. Yep. Okay, so I just want to make sure on that. So one of them was a quarterback. Chris Bradigan goes George Sauer. Yeah, that's way too. That's Tony Alexio goes Adrian Morrell. Yeah, Tony, he did not play in the 1970s and 80s, exactly. All right. Offensive lineman, tight end, quarterback. Less than 2 minutes on the clock. So far, we don't have anybody. Tony Alexio goes Bruce Harper. Oh. Guys throwing out some good names here. So quarterback, tight end, offensive lineman. All played at least 100 games in the NFL. Tony Alexio goes to Kenny O'Brien. 1984. That was the Marino draft. Or 83. 83, excuse me, 83. So, yeah, O'Brien was a few years after that. Chris Bradigan, I probably spelled it wrong. I can tell you there aren't any Craigs. Yeah, I can tell you there are no Craigs. If you had a Craig, I'd give it to you. Less than a minute to go on the clock, guys. The tight end played the most games. I'll give you that. Sharon McClain goes Mickey Schuler. How about Mickey Schuler? There we go. Mickey Schuler played 180 games, the most of any of them on the list. So good job there. That leaves us with a quarterback and an offensive lineman. We got less than 30 seconds. As I see the NCAA game has begun to see who will get their ass kicked in my backyard over in Raleigh by Duke. That should be a lot of fun. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Looks like our time is up. Okay, so Sharon with a quick guess of Richard Todd. No, wasn't Richard Todd. He was already there. The correct answers are Chris Ward, who played tackle, right tackle for you, played 100 games with the Jets, even 100 games, the same as Derek Gaffney. Mickey Schuler was named, played 180 games, and quarterback Pat Ryan actually played 145 games in the NFL, if you believe it. Yep, according to Pro Football Reference. Pat Ryan, 145 games. So that is, and he was an 11th round draft pick. Derek Gaffney was picked 8th, 197 overall. Mickey Schuler drafted 61st in the 3rd round. Chris Ward was a number 4 overall pick from Ohio State. So there you go. That is your trivia for. Yeah, it was a little. I try to give a little bit of it away, but yeah, I wanted to come up with something quickly for Derek Gaffney, and yeah, it wasn't too easy to find a whole lot of Derek Gaffney trivia that seemed like a good question, but yeah, I thought it was halfway decent. But yeah, all right, next week I'll make it. I'll tell you what, just for that next week, I promise you I will make it a current 2024 Jets question. All right. I will make it more recent. I'll make it a little bit more fair. Okay, guys, there's one more thing that we got to do tonight, and that is we have to spin the first round wheel. All right, so let's see. Let's see if I could find it. There we go. Okay. So got the 100 wheel up. We're going to go to the first round pick option. All right, so for those who haven't been around for the last couple of weeks, just to let you know what's going on, this is a very special wheel that we have made just for between now and the draft, where every week we will spin this wheel once, and then we will, at the end of the time, we will know who the Jets are going to draft. So far, we've landed on Kelvin Banks. We've traded up for Mason Graham, and last week we drafted Shedeur Sanders, and the chat nearly had a meltdown. All right, but we got a trade up and a trade down option and a bunch of names that the Jets could potentially draft. So we are going to do this for the 4th time, and let's find out who we draft. So the Jets pick is in, and our just beloved commissioner comes up to the podium with the 7th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. Woo! The New York Jets select. Oh, precious God, help me already. We draft Shedeur Sanders. I can't believe this. For the 2nd straight week, it's Shedeur Sanders. You know, there's talk that he's going to fall. Certain mock drafts have the Jets taking him at 7. The more this is happening, guys, the more it's going to become a reality. There's David. Boo. Yeah. In the next couple of weeks, guys, I'm going to break down. We're going to talk about some more positions, and we'll definitely talk about quarterback. Yeah. Well, yeah. Chris is not happy. Harlan's not happy. Sharon's not happy. And anybody who is happy doesn't dare to speak right now because they don't want to get completely ostracized. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, we'll do a quarterback breakdown next couple of weeks. We'll talk about wide receivers. We'll talk about other positions that the Jets need as well. We've already done tight ends and safeties, and I think we'll start doing some mock drafts as well over the next couple of weeks. Next week, couple weeks too. So we will definitely be doing that. David D and Peach Adam. I can't control the wheel, man. I can't control the wheel. All I can do is put the spaces in, and wherever the wheel goes, it goes. Yeah, at this rate, we're going to have to call it the prime wheel. You know what I'm talking about? Oh, my gosh. What are you going to do? All right, everybody. Well, I want to thank you very much for hanging out with me tonight. Hope everybody has a great rest of your week. And remember, please subscribe if you haven't already. Share the channel with a friend. Share the broadcast with a friend. That's how this thing grows. And I want to thank you again for hanging out with me. And yeah, that's about all there's to say. But keep the hope. Better days are ahead. But for right now, let's just be thankful that the Jets can't lose a game for another 5.5 months. And I will see you right back here with more content from you know where. The Wicker Chair. Have a good night, everybody.